Red Line.
Welcome to Radio Sputnik and its weekend program Red Line with me, Julia Libova.
And Sergei Strokan.
This is our final annual program summing up the results of the year, and this is what we want to be highlighted as watershed events of 2014. Russia's pivot to Asia-Pacific. Disillusioned with America and Europe, Russia is going eastwards, placing high stakes on the relations with China, India and other regional powers. A change of priorities in its foreign policy should enable Russia to battle Western sanctions and explore lucrative oriental markets, capitalizing on its unique geographical position in Eurasia. Between Iranian hammer and ISIS anvil, the Iranian nuclear crisis, which was seen as one of the major challenges to global security, is overshadowed by new threats of global jihad, emanating from Islamic State of Syria and Iraq. The dramatic changes in Islamic world make both Russia and the West handle multiplying security crises. And also Angela Merkel, new Iron Lady of Europe. German Chancellor Angela Merkel emerged as one of the most powerful global leaders, finding herself sandwiched between Presidents Putin and Obama. Unruffled Merkel has won both admiration and criticism, adopting a tough line on Russia and tolerating no dissent among fellow Europeans. So let us come to our first section beyond the headlines to address fundamental change of priorities which we have seen in Russia's foreign policy in 2014. This was probably the most difficult year in one of Russia's relations with the West, the year full of unfulfilled hopes and bitter disappointments, which started already on February when Ukrainian President Yanukovych was ousted from power with the blessing of Western mediators.
Well, Julia, absolutely. I think that those events you're referring to, ousting of President Yanukovych from power, probably set the stage for this cooling down of Russia's relations with the West and disillusionment. I think at this particular moment, probably Russia believed that there's sort of a credibility gap in her relationship with the European Union, with the West overall, and probably that also served as a catalyst for the policy of exploring Oriental market and reinforcing strategic ties with major Asia-Pacific players. I think that was quite logical, and really, if we look back at the year, really, while with the West we had war of sanctions, we've had heated rhetoric, quite opposite picture we've seen at the East, you see, with China. We signed multi-million gas contracts. With India, we've seen really a landmark visit of President Putin to meet new Indian leader Narendra Modi. With Turkey, we've seen also ambitious plans to launch a new gas pipeline. With South Korea, we reinforced our ties. So all in all, there was a tendency that really showed that Russia is Asia-Pacific power and it is going eastward.
All right, well, let's put some questions to our first guest. Let's talk to Vladimir Sotnikov, Director of East-West Strategic Studies Center, which is a Moscow independent think tank. Thank you very much for being in our studio today.
Thank you.
So this new Russia's pivot to Asia-Pacific, is this a new reality for Russia?
Yes, so this is a new reality, and at the same time this is an old reality, because I think we should just take some view what was the real reason and what was the consequences. So the reason for changing guard in the Russian foreign policy was actually emanating from the President Putin third term. Because I think disillusioned with the West in general, with the Russia's relations in general, President Putin decided that this is a high time to look eastwards. And Sergei, you said really very well. The Ukrainian events, there was a catalyst, but the real policy of changing West for the East was, to my mind, laid down a little bit earlier.
Yeah, I think this is important clarification, Vladimir. Probably we have to explain to our audience that President Putin came up with his Eurasian project,
right, Eurasian project,
which was making emphasis on the relations with the Asia-Pacific before the sanction war.
Before the sanction war.
Yes, but I agree with you that really probably made it more active.
Yes, that's actually what lies on the surface.
Red Line.
All right, let's go to Dr. Taisuke Abiru, research fellow at Tokyo Foundation think tank. So when looking at Russia's pivot to Asia-Pacific, how do you assess Russia's potential in the region?
You know that from my point of view, there are two strategic objectives for Russia to make a pivot to the Asian Pacific. That would be the two diversification. One is it from the Europe to the Asia, and as diversification is not only too dependent on China, but also have good cooperation with the Japan, Korea, Asian countries. That would be the second diversification. And I think that in this sense, Russia's pivot to Asia is positively assessed among the Japanese experts on Russian affairs.
And despite some U.S. pressure to apply more sanctions against Russia, Japan is actually, among with other countries like South Korea, reluctant to apply more sanctions on Russia. So where do you put Japan in this political situation?
That is very kind of the difficulty for Japan. Russia's people to Asia started before the Ukraine crisis, as far as I understand. And after Ukraine crisis, that the United States is Japan's alliance. So Japan is kind of the nuanced approach to Russia, not only the cooperation with the G7 countries, but also Japan is making the soft approach to the Russian sanctions. In this sense, Japan is trying to take the independent line from the United States because of the strategic context in this region. I mean the rising of China.
And how important is Russia for countries like Japan, like South Korea?
I think that, from the Japan's point of view, especially energy corporation, Russia has already taken the important role. I mean that, that Russia exports 10% of the oil and gas of all the Japan's import. So in this sense, Russia has already taken a kind of the important role in this region, and Russia could increase its share. So we are very welcome for Russia to take the more important role in this region.
Mr. Abiru, thank you very much for that interview. Thank you.
Red Line.
All right, well, let's talk to our next guest, Brian Yeung, an independent contributor to Chinese and English media in Hong Kong. Mr. Yeung, thank you very much for joining us.
The pleasure is all mine.
The going eastwards for Russia seems to be an important foreign policy strategy, but just how important is it for China, and how is it seen in China, this new sort of direction that Russia is taking?
Actually, I think from Chinese perspective, we really welcome Russian ambition to work more closely in Asia, particularly with China, because we have a long history of partnership and friendship, and both of us actually have been grown most of our defense spending budget after the United States. So the idea of alliance is very compelling to both of us, we believe. But I think we believe to back up this alliance, we need to deepen our economic cooperation, not just on the military perspective. So because Russia actually offers vast natural resources, and China is growing, we do need more natural resources like energy. So that was why we signed the natural gas deal early this year. And also, we do believe that Russia does have an advantage in terms of geographical proximity in helping Chinese companies, not just in targeting Russian market, but also the Chinese market. For example, the Far East in Vladivostok, there is an integrated entertainment zone. So now we actually have two confirmed Asian investors, Melco and Lucrative. So two of both are listed in Hong Kong. They want to target 120 million Chinese population around Vladivostok into our site. So actually projects in Russia are actually quite compelling. But however, some Chinese companies do feel some difficulties in terms of investing in Russia because the financial infrastructure isn't that ready. For example, traditionally, Asian investors, we do invest in Russia through the agent, usually based in London, the broker, the investment banker, and we don't really direct go to Russia and negotiate with the Russian counterpart. So there isn't a direct link between Russia and China in terms of financial infrastructure. So I think another constraint or a difficulty we face is that the currency of the financing. For example, Moscow city government offers sites for Chinese company called Hyundai Group to invest in Moscow to build a property project, but the group wanted to finance it in Yeung, but they were unable to do so. So we do feel excited about the future opportunity to work closely with Russia. But we do hope that the financial infrastructure and also the service offering and opportunity could be more customized to the Asian audience.
Mr. Brian, let me ask you about the talk of the year, which was this multi-billion gas deal between Russia and China. As you know, there were quite opposite opinions. The critics were saying that Russia is turning a sort of a new colony of China. Others were saying that it is Russia who would just make China dependent on its energy resources. Where are you in this dispute?
I think actually from the Chinese perspective, we don't really feel that there is a political connotation to the deal because basically China is growing, our manufacturing sector is growing, so we do need more energy. So it would be actually a very good deal from the commercial perspective that we have like a $500 billion US deal or at least like a 30 years gas deal with our energy security. So I think the deal is not that just Russia is like in a less privileged position. I think it's a very equal and it's like a standard deal. It's fair for everybody, I believe.
And with this new Russia strategy to eastwards, in your opinion, obviously there are so many things that both Russia and China are set to win from, but is there anything that, in your opinion, Russia is set to lose from this new strategy?
Actually, I think I'm not sure whether we will lose something from working closely together, but I think we do have a lot of obstacles ahead in order we can work more closely together. So it's like if you look at not just about investment, we look at the trade and deals whatsoever. And while China and Russia really want to boost the trade target by $200 billion by 2020, but the thing is like the economic structure between two countries are not so parallel. Because like Russia mainly export energy and natural resources, and China only export manufactured goods to Russia. But as we know, China is actually moving away from manufacture to more high-tech technology and other sectors like innovation. So our cost is getting high. So we are not sure whether Russia is able or interested in importing all this kind of stuff from China. And on the other hand, like if we want to boost like the economic collaboration, we need more diversified goods and trade, not just natural resources and energy. And also like one kind of risk is that like basically Russia and China could be a kind of competitor in Central Asia, because like Central Asian countries, many of them used to be part of the Soviet Union, but nowadays the investment from China is increasing over the years. We had the Eurasian Economic Union signed in Astana, that the union itself, or like the former of the Union Custom Union, didn't really show as promising as the Chinese investment in Central Asia. So for both countries to work more closely together, there are some obstacles in terms of like mutual trust, whether we can turn some sort of competition in Central Asia into a kind of trust and collaboration, and also more diversified economy.
Red Line.
All right, well, let's now go to our next guest, Alexander Lomanov, leading research fellow at the Institute of Far East, the Russian Academy of Science. Mr. Lomanov, thank you very much for joining us.
You're welcome.
With this new Russia strategy with China, India and Turkey and other countries in the East, is this something that's to stay in Russia, or do you think that is there any hope that at one point Russia and the West might actually reconciliate, or is this new eastward strategy something that's a new sort of reality for Russia and the world?
I think it's a new global reality, actually, and no would-be reconciliation between Russia and the West could delete or annihilate the would-be reality of economic leadership of China in the global world, because China is developing rapidly, and there is no reason to see that this development will stop or decline. So what we'll see is by the middle or by the end of the next decade is China number one in global economy. And actually everyone wants to be a friend with a new leader, including Russia, including other Asian countries or European nations. It's all the same. So in your question, I could indicate that Russia's orientation on friendship with China, on economic cooperation with China and with Far and with Asia-Pacific region, it's a long-term goal which will not be undermined of possible reconciliation between Russia and the West. And in our problem is searching for new friends in our parts of the world. It's like India or like Turkey. Yes, I think it's promising because India still has a great potential for development. It's not fully used yet, but India is also very promising new developing economy, and I think for Russia it's because everybody knows that Russia has a very good and positive tradition of friendship with India, which lasts for more than 50 or 60 years. So the friendship traditions will not be interrupted in future, but together with development of Indian economics and Indian technological advance, of course, the cooperation between India and Russia will get broader and the volume of trade will increase, sure.
All right, well, thank you very much to all of our guests for their insight. That was Alexander Lomanov, leading research fellow at the Institute of Far East at the Russian Academy of Science. And thank you to Brian Yeung, an independent contributor to Chinese and English media in Hong Kong. And thank you to Dr. Taisuke Abiru, a research fellow at the Tokyo Foundation think tank. And also thank you very much to our special guest in our studio, Vladimir Sotnikov, director of East-West Strategic Studies Center, which is a Moscow independent think tank. And so to come on a program, between Iranian hammer and ISIS anvil, the Iranian nuclear crisis, which was seen as one of the major challenges to global security, is overshadowed by a new threat of global jihad emanating from Islamic State of Syria and Iraq. The dramatic changes in Islamic world make both Russia and the West handle multiplying security crises. And also Angela Merkel, a new Iron Lady of Europe. German Chancellor Angela Merkel emerged as one of the most powerful global leaders, finding herself sandwiched between Presidents Putin and Obama. Stay with us.